Ta-da! I know that it is a day late, but better late than never, as they say. So, welcome to Astrology and Alchemy with Paranormal Sarah and Matthew. Matt is out on business this week because both of us are people doing business. But Matthew is there doing some family and business related things. And I yesterday was broken down on the highway. So I was unable to be present for the live stream at 9 p.m. But that doesn't mean that I am not here tonight and ready to rock for the week ahead. And I'm hoping I'm going over to the live comments, the chat coming in from Facebook, and that's on Facebook for Astrology and Alchemy, New Moon Astrology, the Paranormal Sarah, Facebook, Instagram, all of those areas kind of connecting into one place where one stream rules them all, but also on YouTube. So if you are joining us in one of those many chat rooms, let us know where you're joining from. And also, hopefully, if we can get through the stream tonight, I will be able to take some questions and maybe even do a reading or two. So I am posting this on somebody had asked me to share it to their group, and I'm really bad at doing that quickly. And so I'm doing it right now as I talk out loud. But you guys, I hope that you have noticed our move as Odyssey Radio has expanded out to now Subspace Radio. You can download our podcast, any past or even future shows on that platform. Anywhere where you listen to iHeartRadio or your favorite podcast, you can listen to us here on Astrology and Alchemy and all the amazing things that it is that we do here on this station. We have all sorts of cool things. Astrology and Paranormal. Join us. Okay, there. I posted it in 2 different groups. I've done the things. I've done the work. I've done it all. So hi, Carson. Hi, Lori. Hi, John. Hi, Matthew. Welcome. So happy to see you. From Massachusetts, I've got one from Australia. Hello. Good to see our Southern UK person again. And I'm in Northern Minnesota. If you're not familiar with the show or you haven't listened to me ever before, where have you been? Why are we not friends yet? So usually on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., Matt and I are hosting the show. And what I like about being able to have that duality of male, female, but also a co-host, because it allows me to do this as a useful, intuitive tool, both for validation, but for mentorship and training, and for people that are collaborative on their astrological adventures and intuitive journeys. So if you are interested in sharpening your intuition or getting in tune with the energies and frequencies of the universe, maybe you are a paranormal investigator or you're a researcher of some kind. I'm not sure what brings you to astrology and to alchemy, but share that too in the chat room. And we will try and curb it to make accurate, relevant, and helpful points to what it is you bring to the field. But this ideally is an opportunity for you to take a piece of paper if you have one near you, or the chat room, or a text message on your phone you might have in your lap, or an email from the device you're watching this on, and allow yourself the opportunity that as we talk from day to day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the next 6 to 7 days in the astrology, and that we look at that astrological chart and you see the movements of it. Hi, Rebel, that you are able to predict. You're able to be like, I'm kind of thinking and feeling this. And you put that down, speak it out, write it out. And then you see it come to fruition and you see it be validated in real time. You get to kind of measure objectively, more or less, how things show themselves to you and how you begin to explore and navigate your own intuition, which for me has always been very helpful to do it maybe with people, but not suggestively, because I don't want to be suggestive with anything other than the astrology, which I know that that's almost kind of an oxymoron because astrology in itself is very suggestive. The whole thing is extremely thick with just subjective personality things. But anyway, let's get into it. So if you're joining us for the very first time, take a moment, take a deep breath, and go ahead and think. What the heck happened today astrologically? There was actually some things happening as far as Jupiter. Jupiter and Taurus today, squaring off with Pluto in Aquarius. Now, since this has already happened in the movements, today is mostly over. I know it may not be a huge thing, but this is a good opportunity to go, okay, how did I assess today? How did I feel today? How did things move today? How did they sound today? What did the energy look and feel like today? And as you write that down, jot that out, have that moment in your mind right now. These things happened. Those things happened. As you kind of take that into the assessment space, then you look and say, okay, well, what was supposed to happen? Or what was the playlist? What was the soundtrack of the universe today? Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter is the Chris Farley planet of expansion. He's the big bad voodoo daddy out there, the big gas giant. And so he really expands things and pushes and gets an influential momentum, influences the vibes out there. And that planet is in the constellation of Taurus and it's squaring off with Pluto. Pluto's the planet way fucking out there. Is it a Pluto? Is it a rock? Is it a planet? We don't know. It's Pluto doing what it wants. Who knows what it is? But it is in the constellation Aquarius. So the standoff, it's this kind of tense face off. There's tension. There's stubborn sticking. There's likely some arguments, some convictions, some misunderstandings coming out of retrograde for Mercury, some electronic things, cars breaking down, and computers deleting things, people misreading a conversation that may have been had over the weekend, and people believing they're right, knowing they're right. Jupiter is saying, hey, say more, breathe more, put more air on the fire, opportunity, step into it, step into this power, go with it, just go with the flow. But this alignment can actually, create new challenges because you may not be stepping in alignment with your goals. It might just be an influence that's in your life that Pluto has brought in. And it's kind of heavy because Pluto is life and death and like things that are dying in your life, not just people, but careers or dreams or fantasies or delusions or addictions. It can be a death of a lot of things, but it really is a death. These things aren't going to be in your space so much anymore. And these feelings of being stuck and powerless and heavy resonating a lot in the last 2 weeks in some of these eclipse spaces for people as working in social work. It's been really heavy seeing people relapse and pivot and make impulsive decisions. But it's also a really powerful space for inspiration and see where people regain that power and step into that ability to build confidence from rock bottom. So if you're a religious person, this would be like the ability to discern what is going on. So earth, water, air, fire, the ability to know the intention and then recognize it through your feelings and through the air discussion with other people, and people maybe even criticizing those intentions and you still knowing instead of thinking, knowing for certain what it is that you're going to do next is the right thing. So, man, Katie, Carson, John, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is good to see so many people in the chat, new and returning. And don't forget, as Katie shared, if you can't stay the whole time or you are tucking yourself into bed or you're driving into work and this whole hour is maybe not the ideal time for you, the great thing about Subspace is that you can go and download it. You can re-listen. You can check it out on YouTube, and we will follow up with our comments that way too. So don't feel like we're leaving you out if I'm not addressing you in the live stream. I'm looking at a lot of stuff. And so sometimes I go back and I do the comments there too. So that is really the only large astrological movement happening today, unless I've got Steph and some of my other in-house astrologers that want to throw a wrench in there for me. Please don't do that. I mean, you could, but Thursday, I only have one astrological movement happening for tomorrow. And so I want to know how you guys feel about that. Do you only have one thing happening? Let me know if you have something that conflicts, but I'm going to share this in the chat room for those of us watching along and writing down on their paper. Thursday, May 18th. That's tomorrow, depending on if you're a time traveler or not. Mercury, direct, by the way, it went direct on Sunday. I don't know maybe what arguments or conflicts or messages, or someone finally read that message or sent that call or got that text or finally responded to that thing you sent, or you finally had the nail on the coffin, kind of any of these things. This was Sunday night into Monday, Mercury going direct. So it's direct. And tomorrow, Mercury direct in Taurus, by the way, the same with Jupiter that just moved into. So Taurus is like where the party's at. That constellation over there with Ferdinand the Bull, where everyone's cold and callous and thinking about shit. That is the party. That's the house party. Mercury's direct in Taurus, and it's sextile. Ooh. I always kind of think of sex almost synonymous and harmonious and like, ooh, la, 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 with Saturn in Pisces. So Lynn shares, man, I had an awesome day today. That Jupiter expansion really felt good. Tomorrow, how is it going to feel? Mercury direct in Taurus, communications are going to be cold. And then that Saturn in Pisces, rules. Saturn is all about rules, regulations, lines in the sand. Do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign? That is Saturn. And it's going to be in the constellation or the filter, if you will. Sometimes I see it like a kaleidoscope, like what is Saturn? What am I looking at? Oh, Saturn, rules and regulations. Okay, the DMV, great. And what day is it? What's the weather like? What's the jam? What's the soundtrack? What's the filter? What's the lens? It's Pisces. And that's a water sign. And that's fish in a barrel, right? Water. Pisces is something that is really emotional. So rules and boundaries will be tested. Boundaries and rules tested emotionally in very subjective and reflective spaces. So this is yin energy with both Taurus. Mercury is very Virgo, and Saturn, Pisces, water. This kind of yin energy is internal, quiet, cold, non-responsive, slow, stubborn, and sometimes self-absorbed. I'm going to say self-absorbed because I think of like, and it's weird that my intuition often when I'm sharing the space with Matt, this is when I like dissociate a little bit and allow my mental kind of third eye to just be a little wonky and wild and say what comes to mind. And I put it in my notes. But since I'm writing notes and talking out loud, I'm going to just say it out loud. Self-absorbed, like Bounty. And I hear like the paper towel commercial. And it's funny because I actually need to go get paper towels. So in my brain, I'm like, oh, I probably just have been thinking that because I was just thinking I needed to get paper towels. But it's the word absorb. And it's like the ritual suggestion or the shadow work is then almost like absorption or use of water magic. So if you are familiar with alchemy, that water space, our thoughts and our feelings in the yin, feminine, receptive, internal way, feelings. You have earth, water, air, fire. These are also the zodiac signs as they are broken down. Water, you've got the 3 signs. The top is the cardinal, the middle is fixed, and the bottom is mutable. And it's that way across the board. It ends up being a great sacred geometry thing of math. No, not math. It's true. It's more math than I care to admit, which is why I love having Matthew familiar and here because he loves math and like Excel spreadsheets and shit. I do not. So that's a big difference. But Pisces, this is it starts to tell you that this teeter-totter is almost looking like this in some of what we should expect to feel tomorrow, which is heavy emotions. And if you're spilling into yourself, if you've got a lot of water energy moving, a lot of emotions, how do you regulate or absorb that? So I'll give you a personal example. One of the things that I plan to be doing is sweating, going outside, sitting in a sauna if I can get to, sit outside in the sun and just work, right? Like actual, sweat is pain leaving the body. Kind of one of those to catalyze that water energy and also to probably sit and veg out and watch a show that I know will make me cry, that is my excuse to cry, my reason to cry, my opportunity to cry, so that I get my sinuses flushed and that feeling that's bubbling within me, literally the emotions, the water energy, because it's outside and it's absorbing into our body. And so we might be empathetic and feeling it. And there's a lot of water going on. And if you're a water sign, good luck to you. That you need to be more grounded. Maybe you need to open up and let some of that out. Pour the pot, right? Make room. So that water energy is like, how are you moving it? And that is alchemy. That how are you going to shift matter from one space to the next and make it work for you, and not just your thoughts, but in your behaviors. So give me your thoughts on how you feel that will affect. And this is where I would usually ask my co-host, like, what are your predictions for Thursday? With Mercury direct, this is going to be messages, news headlines, and emotional things. So, like, I really hate to repeat this, so, be warned, but there have been particular photographs throughout, like, National Geographic history or mass media history. Welcome, Dolly. Hello. And Carson, you're absolutely right. Like the child that is dying, emaciated, starving, still alive, and they're huddled in like an African village and the vulture is looming, and the photographer that took that image. Or the Nat Geo photos of the child that, when the raft of people seeking refuge went out into the ocean and were coming upon shore, and children that did not make the voyage were washing up on the beaches. And those images are so emotional that they instigate a movement. They're emotive and designed to be. And I feel like it'll be tomorrow that we see that kind of stuff in the headlines, because Mercury would imply that it's a message, or that you're going to get, and also like on a smaller scale, like text messages, like, I just wanted to let you know how I felt, just in case you think that I don't feel things. Like, it's like rules and boundaries, but in a very emotional filter. So expect that. Now, Friday, I have two things, but they're big things. So Friday the 19th, unless you guys here in the chat room have additional things to add, Friday, the first thing that's going to happen that you need to put a dot down on your intuitive paperwork and go ahead and put it on your calendar, start preparing for it in your journal. And that is that Friday, Mars will be conjunct with Pluto. Now, I want to share my screen here. I can get it pulled up without it completely like shutting. I always say like shutting my shit down, but sometimes it really will. So I am going to share my screen, and I'll show you what I mean here. So Friday, and this is Mars and Pluto. We know that Pluto down here has recently moved into this Aquarius space. So it's down here, right? It's on the cusp of the Capricorn Pluto. This is the big shift. This is the world is ending. The Romans are coming. Like all the things throughout history, this is when Pluto is crossing over a big thing, because it takes a long time to do that. It takes a very long time. So here we're going to move to Friday, because that's what we were talking about. Boom. 17th is today, 18th tomorrow, 19th Friday. So this is Friday. Mars, where are you at, brother? There he is. Oh no. So Mars is in Cancer with Venus. So I go over here, Mars in Cancer with Venus. It's not conjunct because they're not over each other. They're not like directly passing over something. And I'm trying to see if anything is conjunct to anything. And there's nothing really passing over anything that you can see here on this link. And I'll share with it in the chat room. It's theplanetstoday.com. And it's one of the things I use. But like the moon and Uranus, they're almost conjunct. You know, they kind of passed over each other. When was it? It would have happened at one moment at some point. throughout that stopping, that they would have been conjunct. But the things that we're going to take note of with Venus conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. So you can kind of see what I'm seeing there. And hopefully that makes a little sense for those of you who are more visual learners. But what does that mean for the behaviors of society? And what the heck does that mean for you? Depending on your birth chart, because it's math. It's like doing a bell curve, X, Y. If you've got two sides of the equation, yin and yang, male and female, good and bad, black and white, up and down, fat and thin, you know, the spectrum. We are giving you the planets. If you know yourself and relative to the planets, you get a better spectrum. The equation is a little bit more rounded, which is why knowing your birth chart is really helpful in some of these ways, because I know how mine pans out. I know what my numbers are for earth, water, air, fire. So I know where my internal teeter-totter is. You start adding a bunch of fire into things or earth into things, it definitely switches how I behave. It actually alchemizes how I am as an organism, which is kind of cool to think about. So the universe very much is symbiotic with us and us with it. And we are the fruit of that. So here we are looking at the times, the residuals, the ripples, and other major material things in our space. And what this is going to mean for Friday, what the heck? Mars, that's like what you fight for, right? Mars, the planet of your battle cry. And Cancer, the lens by which we're watching. So we're watching a war movie. Oh, it's a war documentary like that, you know, Saving Private Ryan. Okay, it's Mars. And in what theme? Like a romantic, like an old, like a Cancer? Okay. Water sign. Emotional water sign. Oh, it's going to be a Saving Private Ryan. It's going to be a like these scenes. Great. And who's coming to the movie with us? Venus, the planet of vagina. So it's a date. It's a date, and it might even be a feud. It's a fiery combination of planetary energy that could be really volatile. It could be volatile for relationships. It could be volatile for peer relationships, colleague relationships. It could be something that leads to a boiling over. Now, I use that word in that language specifically because if you're doing the alchemy, you're doing it with us, right? This would be more water. More water. Boiling over. Because we're adding fire to what we already know is a very watery space. So the heat is boiling, it's increasing the pressure, it's quickly tensions rising. But that also means that things are going to rise and fall and also be a little messy too. Pluto in Aquarius, that's big life stuff. So people around you might feel more heated than usual, more irritable. So to work best with this energy, I think of like an old school alchemist, channel it into exercise or ways of being productive. Try not to be swept up in other people's anger or rage or irritability or goddamn. This alignment is going to fall on the same day as the next significant shift, which will be Friday night. So it just means amplified. Wow, wow, wow. Like it does that. It's like Jimi Hendrix, like shaking this vibe, and its energy is going to be amplified. So the results of that, however you're feeling, whether it's restless, exhausted, or irritable, it's going to just wow, 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 move out into the realm, because the next thing that's happening on Friday night, it is a new moon. So if you are a paranormal researcher, you are a witch, you're a pagan, you're a naturalist, you're a farmer, you're a sociological behavioralist, maybe you're just somebody out looking at the stars. A new moon, it's always really great. And I always think of the animals and the behaviors, because if you can imagine, and we do, even though I know we have the sanctuary of our little apartments and our little boxes and our little keys, and our little locks and our little gates and our things like that. In essence, we are all living here on this planet. And so in this natural environment that we have, when the new moon, it's not full, It's new, so it's dark outside. It's very, 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 very dark. And so the predators that can see very well, the owls and the wolves and the predators. Now think about this as like a humanistic thing as well, metaphorically, sociologically, macro and micro, that on a new moon you have predators that are capable, or people that have tools, those animals and organisms that are capable and able to maneuver with confidence or stupidity into the darkness, like pitch black, like a Vin Diesel movie. And that you are therefore going to be a little bit high risk. You may not see what's coming. There's not a lot of light out. It's quite dark. And so, metaphorically as well, there's not a lot of guidance. There's not a lot of sounds. And there's not a lot of people out doing a lot of things, like on a full moon when it's bright and shining, it's busy and and it's kind of chaotic. A new moon is in essence the antithesis of that, so it's a lot quieter. So those things that are happening in a different space. They're happening in a way that you're likely to hear it happening or see it happening. And if it is a stupid thing that is happening, it is something that could be a high risk, and it could be something that gets you eaten. Or if you find yourself being the confident and capable one, this might be the time to act on things or to move, because there's less people out moving, and therefore there's less resistance in your space. So this new moon is in Taurus. Taurus again? Taurus, more Taurus energy. Taurus out there, if you are the Taurus, this is a time for you to have major career ambitions, a shift in your time pie, meaning that you're going to have energy shifts. There's going to be sucks and drains. You're going to notice an all-time high during this particular moon space, and encouraged to make plans that are going to be long-term investment plans, planting seeds. This is both in your garden, but also from business goals, romantic goals, personal goals, garden goals. Grow them throughout this lunar cycle, and consider how it's going to start waxing on Saturday morning, meaning that the moon begins to build again, and we begin to see that flashlight in the sky showing a little bit more light. And the arrival of that new moon, Friday night, guys, it helps you bring an end to the intensity of what this eclipse portal has been. So we say eclipse portal, I work in forensic psychology Monday through Friday, and then doing metaphysical things and all the other weird spaces. And I can tell you for certain, when I see these portals and eclipse moments, these wormholes, what does it mean? What does it mean? Very big, significant life transitions, deaths, career shifts, cars breaking down. It can be moving across the country, accepting that career promotion, or walking out on, that sibling that you just can't speak with anymore. Like it's a big pivotal moment. If you were in therapy doing a timeline or doing a map or doing a visual representation of the significant times in your life, it would likely fall astrologically in a place of like a portal, an eclipse portal. And we have been in an eclipse portal or eclipse space in the last few weeks, since mid-May, not mid-May, it's mid-May now, mid-April to now. So this eclipse portal, it's good for work, but it's been lingering. Energies filtering into cosmetic skies and spaces. That means it's also cold and silent and kind of exhausting. Heightened emotions, it's a yin energy. People are triggered. People are offended. People having deep thoughts, deep changes, ripples. Maybe not even talking about it, but feeling it. Guided to embrace simple pleasures. You might feel like you want to indulge a little bit, take time out, buy something, recharge, take a long hot bath, do whatever you need to do to give yourself attention, to turn around the financial woes, rebudget, realign on the investments. This is a really great time to think about investments of what you deserve. So the life shadow work is like a life budget. What are you sacrificing? What is the cost? What is the gain? What is the risk? I was recently talking just about this morning, and that would be the synchronicity, right? Of someone saying, gosh, I just really love how we can do our homeschooling now, and people are getting free laptops and they're encouraged to stay home, and kids are really getting their work done. And it's like, it seems so great. All these great benefits. It's just great, great, great. Because that I believe in science and physics, and that energy does not die. It transfers into somewhere and something. Where does it go? Gain and cost, supply and demand, the push and the pull, and the great connection that we all have, as quantum entanglement might illustrate to us. I believe this. And so where there are great benefits, what is the cost? At what cost? And I do think of some of our founding fathers and reminding us that, what are we paying for privacy? What are we paying for security? What are we paying for freedom? Because the cost is great, especially if the benefits appear really great. So I'm always a little skeptical in that space. And this particular new moon on Friday is going to be about taking that assessment in your life. If I do this, is it worth it? If I take this, and I think about, like, for example, in my life personally, to give you another relative example, is I started my doctorate program again because I'm always ongoing. I'm always ongoing doing this because I'm paying for it as I go. I don't want to have any more student loans, and I don't qualify for things. So unless I have, $5,000 tuition reimbursement, guys, one class is about $37.25. So it's about $3,700 for one class. And you've got to be enrolled at least 3 classes. So you're taking out chunks of money. And to be able to go, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to invest in that. That means I'm not going to be able to go get my hair done or take that family vacation, or I'm not going to be able to go see my dad because I only make so much money. So unless I'm working more or getting a second job, like, the cost and the gain of moving those numbers around, because we humans make ourselves do silly, silly things, is going to be the value that is really coming forward in the themes for this moon on Friday. So I want to share that with you. You might notice that in conversations that you're having, or people in your life, just kind of, how things are moving. All right. So then that is going to be Saturday morning. Saturday morning is going to come after a pretty crazy new moon. And I expect always on a Saturday morning after a Friday, if there's any kind of craziness, it's a Saturday. So people are going to be hungover. People are going to be like, leave me alone. And then it's going to be this. Carson, I'm so glad you're able to tune in when you're not doing cool stuff. Saturday morning, Mars is going to enter into Leo. So as we looked on that planetary shift, it's moving across our sky into the constellation, the fight, the Save It Private Ryan war movie is now going to be in a fire side, and a prideful one, Leo. So this is where we just went from watching Saving Private Ryan to like Inglourious Bastards. It really changes. It's still a war movie. It's still about, we're fighting for this, and this is our cause, and there's fire, and there's action, and there's hot energy, but now there's ego. And those actions are a little bit more glamorous and flamboyant, and there's like themes of a movie and this and fire, and like, it's Quentin Tarantino. So it's a little bit more flashy and pow pow, rather than like Saving Private Ryan with long, vacant landscapes and just less action. Both war movies, and both in essence that Mars theme. But on Saturday, May 20th, you're going to notice that summer heat, and it's kind of the coming into summer, pools in. and hot energy of the ego. I want to look like this. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Now got my doctorate now. Now I'm doing these things. Actions become glamorous. They become flamboyant. They become, and I would say the universal advice is not a good place to start a fight. Don't start a fight you can't finish. This is definitely like pick your poison and weapon wisely. And I almost say that condescendingly because there's not going to be a whole lot of thought in this at all. It's a fire energy. So all of the thinking and investing and planning is in the career and money and the safe over there. It's not about the knife that you're bringing to school, so to say. It's that you're just doing things without thinking about it. And that is not going to fare well for you if you're not careful. So the next thing that is going to happen, and so this is Sunday, guys. So if you are joining with me and putting a dot on your paper or your calendar and keeping in mind how these movements play into sociological patterns, but also patterns for you to track, that on Sunday, the sun enters Gemini. And I want to look too at my thing because that is going to be, not only is the sun in Gemini, but so is the moon. Sun enters Gemini with waxing moon. So the sun, the center of our galaxy. Lately, people have been wondering if it's even real. Have you seen that thing out there? It's doing weird things. It looks weird. It's kind of moving strange in the sky. There's haze. People think it's a simulation. Like there's all sorts of crazy things going on. But one thing is also for certain, we're having a lot of solar flares, a lot of coronal mass ejections, big ones. Pew-wow! They look really beautiful if you've watched them under the telescopes and some of the things that the NASA will share, and the beautiful space images of the sun dancing, these electric storms. But unfortunately, they also create major ripples and shifts in our world as we know it, our environment, and creates headaches, fatigue, sluggishness. Electronic things go out. Internet goes wonky. People become irritable. If your life depends on, and a lot of us do, the center of your universe, especially if you went all remote school and shit, on the internet and on solar things and on power and what is powering you, think about what is the metaphorical plugged in powering you. What is powering you? Okay, whatever that is, that sentimental movie that started it all, the sun, your reason, is now going to kind of be filtered through Gemini, along with a moon that's waxing. So your feelings and what you see, the yin and the yang, but there's kind of this big ripple after a new moon of Gemini, which is Gab, two-faced Gab too. And not two-faced in a bad way, but it's like, what did she say? Oh, well, what did he say? Oh, well, then what did you say? Oh, well, then what did he say? It's the he said, she said, but you kind of need that. You want to coin two sides of the coin, right? Like you want to have that information. It's the twins here in Minnesota. That's a great thing. So over the next 4 weeks, count them, 4 weeks, all weeks, the ego, pride. There's going to be two sides to this. Double the power, leveled up, twins helping you kind of transition from the spring into summer, from the eclipse, exhausted, holy shit, what just happened? What did my life just go through? Into, okay. And also this, it's an ideal time to learn how to adapt to new situations. You're going to have them. They're going to be tons. Ask questions, really ask questions. That's what Gemini is about. Ask the things and then ask again and then listen twice and then clarify and then make decisions with confidence because you're going to have heard many versions of this story. So you'll have a really good idea of what the source is. The sun is moving out of steady, grounded Taurus into social, quick-witted Gemini, moving out of Earth into air, which means that energy, that internal motivation with all of us will move from lower chakras like gut, weight gain, gurgles, more heaviness, lower back pain, weak knees, not feeling like you just have to get up and go in the last few weeks. It's going to move from those lower chakras, reproductive issues, sexual issues, menstruation issues, pooping issues, to higher chakras. Feelings of creativity, like the Adele albums and the Beyonce Swoon albums, and the desire to share these feelings. And don't you know, like Gemini is all about the season, the time to focus on communicating, working with your hands, working with your voice. It's all about the power. It's a power time. And to recognize that you are a being that is about change and moving, and you're a soul, but you're also a physical body, but you're also a soul, but you're also this, but you're actually none of that. And the nature of the Gemini twins is one that is both mortal and immortal. You are just temporary. You are everything and nothing. And that shadow work, body image, glamour, magic, all the things you see and all the things you don't see, because that stuff isn't always about, and I love the magical spells that you get to see along with it. It's not always about what you see. It's about what you don't see. The northern lights are this, it's so pretty, purples and greens. It's also telling you that there's like a hole in the ionosphere and the magnetosphere, and that you might be exposed to electromagnetic frequencies that may or may not be doing damage to you and your environment and really fucking up your radio. And so may not see that, especially if you're not looking for it. So it's a really great time this Sunday to keep an open eye, but especially an open ear to some of those vibes. So the sun in Gemini, and one last thing to add in that is that it is going to, why'd I have to hit that button? In Gemini, it's with Pluto and Aquarius, and the way that it's particularly plucking that cord, it's plucking it with Mars and Leo. Yay, yay. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to share this little dot, and this is for Sunday, guys, and then we're going to round out the week. I know this is a lot. I know that we've got a lot. Pluto and Aquarius, that means it's more big life stuff. Great time to connect with peers for research, questions, answers, the flood of life decisions, inner detectives, finding the truth and scratching deeper issues. This is very alter ego, choose your own adventure. But after having read it all, because you want to know what both of them were, and then you go back and watch the movie that you want to do the thing about. And so the sun, what it is in that Pluto, these life decisions with new life breath and new perspectives. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're doing something completely different. For example, I may not be moving, or I may not be buying a new car like I had expected, but I might be driving a different car than I expected. My car just broke down yesterday. So it might be that I was manifesting a new car and now it's just going to be a rental. Or it could be Pluto would suggest, no, this is going to be like a life thing. This is going to be the car that you have for the next 9 years. This is going to be news that shifts things for a 9-year period. This is new laws passed. And this is weird because it's a Sunday. So I can't expect a whole lot in a Sunday. But the tail end of Sunday night is that the sun blows that Gemini vibe, that heat, that hot air rises like off of the desert in a little wiggle line that you're kind of squinting to look at to see, is that really water or is that just heat? And then all of a sudden you notice in alignment that Mars is in Leo in the background, which is that fire air. It's that Inglorious Bastards coming down the mountainside with their song a blaring. It's a boost of ego. It's a boost of feeling confident in things, like the star of the show, the main character energy kind of vibing through here. But also with kind of all the big life changes, be careful that you're not biting off more than you can chew. So safe words for like life things or life decisions, or you've talked too long, too far with the wrong person, and now you need to get out of there. It's going to be something pretty important to keep in mind for Sunday and any of the discussions that you have on or around Sunday night. So Monday morning, and guys, we are almost done here as we finish out the last few remaining minutes of the show. I know. This is Monday morning. Monday morning, you're going to wake up. It's going to have been kind of a crazy weekend. We're time traveling. This is next Monday, of course. And only one thing is significantly happening astrologically. And that is that Mars and Leo, that Inglorious Bastards, is still playing on the TV. It was like it was left on overnight and you woke up and it's on repeat and it's still there. And the DVD main screen is just on a loop. And it's squaring off with Jupiter. Oh no, Jupiter. That's Chris Farley. That's the big gas giant, remember? So that just means you've got this Inglorious Bastards vibe, or this Mars and Leo, whatever that might be for you specifically. For me, I see it in those ways. Those are some of my spirit guides. But it's squaring off with Jupiter and Taurus, which is going to be a lot of hot air, maybe long-winded discussions that become fiery. Like it started off as just a discussion that then became a fight, or fights that started off easy in a discussion and then became a very stubborn ego, believe it until I'm right, or I'm going to let it all fucking burn down kind of a thing. Old grudges, old projections because of the ripple and Pluto. It's going to bring things back from 2014, 2004, resentments arising from the ashes. Monday. Do not engage. Do not engage this fight, because this is something that's been brewing for a very long time. So whether this is political, America, or it's personal, hey, you, people are going to be having things bubbling beneath the surface that now at this point, as the chakras has moved up into their throat, it went down from their belly button, like childhood, deep-seated, rooted umbilical cord type things, maybe even past life if you go that far, to now being moved up all the way into that, like, you're going to be talking about it and hearing about it. And do you really want to get invested in that conversation? Do you really want to be in that yelling fight? Is that really what you came and signed up for? Because this doesn't even really have anything to do with you. Unless it does. Unless, like, you were there 14 years ago when it all went down and you guys buried the body together or something. And then, you know, it's going to be the time in which this long extended thing, this life-altering thing, information, scenario, piece to your puzzle, is going to rise from the ashes and brew and overbrew and overflow. And you're going to finally have to face that problem, because deflection only works for so long. And that's going to really come into play. So be aware, if you don't engage it, you'll be all right. But if you engage it, good luck. Be careful. Be very careful. Monday is going to be, I expect, doing like conflict resolution, crisis de-escalation, suicide intervention. This is going to be the day that you get a lot of those things. Cancer mass research, said Carson in the chat room. Some really interesting things that we should expect to see, or like major turning events like the HIV AIDS thing. Like this is going to be a rebirth of like the 1990s kind of themes that we saw happening and being regurgitated again, like Monsanto stuff. So for sure, we are going to see some of that. Good point. Cancer, drugs, HIV, and Gates Foundation themes returned from way back 2004. We're going to say crimes against humanity themes. These are big themes because that ego, like, well, yeah, we did this, like Nuremberg and like all kinds of things in that way. Tuesday, May 23rd, because I want to end out without leaving you hanging for Tuesday, really be able to give you guys the opportunity to prepare your week astrologically. And nothing terribly significant is happening next Tuesday. The only thing I would mention is that Venus and the moon, so Venus and Luna, or the moon, waxing conjunct in Cancer. What? So this is a space where you're going to have a lot of feminine, receptive, yin energy of emotional drama that plays into creative art, decoration of life, how you feel about your connections and bonds. And after life change, this will be disruptive to cord cutting if you're not careful. And so, what I mean in that essence is that just because, and like if you get sober, for example, you can't always be around your friends that are cokeheads if you're trying to be sober. So you have to make a change in your friend and your support system and what you do every Friday. You can't go skating every Friday with Chris and Daniel because they're cokeheads now. You got to do something different every Friday. And that makes you feel like you're a different person. Like, I'm not even hanging out with the same people. I don't do the same things. Like, so much is changing just because I'm trying to be sober. And it seems like this huge change because it ripples and affects all these things. And it does, by the way. It does, because everything is connected. And so if you think that it's just get sober from Coke and not do Coke, that's not going to be the plan. You're going to probably have to get some new friends. You're going to probably have to stop doing those things. You're going to have to not do that stuff that really pushes you in that direction. You're going to have to change some of the numbers in the equation to get a different answer. And that could be changes over here, over there, or everywhere. And the astrology says, guess what? You're going to feel a lot of it. You're going to be like, this is too much. I can't, this is, what am I going to do? And, well, if you can't move to New York with me, then fine. You'll never see your kids again. Like, it's one of these like, whoa, calm down and refocus and unhook tentacles that aren't needed to be hooked. Detach if you need in a way that allows you to be logical and present and not hurtful, because you can still be friends with some people, even though they do Coke and you're sober. You can still go and do roller skating, maybe just not for a little bit. Maybe just not until you are more confident with a rebuttal about like, no, man, sorry, I'm not interested. And you know that that's not going to affect your friendship. You're going to need more information and more pieces to the equation to get the answer you want. And maybe you don't have that right now. And that's okay. But the feelings about it are going to be very overwhelming. And so next Tuesday, I expect to see a lot of that. So, you guys, I'm hoping that this finds you well and gives you some use to the next 7 days in astrology and alchemy and how to use them, apply them, and make it work for you. If you would like to get a private reading, please do. I would love that. I am investing in getting my car fixed and summer activities, and I have a little extra time because of those things to be able to put forth and do more readings. So if you're interested in your birth chart, readings, or just going on to Subspace, downloading our past shows and learning about yourself by applying some of this science to your spirituality, I would love to connect with you. So follow along on paranormalsarah.com and check in next Tuesday, guys, at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be there, or you'll hear from us. And I do hope you'll follow along. Sign up for notifications so you don't miss out. And otherwise, guys, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.